Starting out as a beginner in the gym is incredibly overwhelming, incredibly challenging, and I know for a lot of individuals, you simply don't even know where to turn. So this video today is going to answer a bunch of frequently asked questions that individuals that I work with ask me about starting the gym. We're going to go over topics such as the best routine when you haven't worked out in multiple years. We're going to talk about what age you actually stop building muscle and strength and much more. So stay all the way till the end of the video. Go ahead and give this video a like and we will go ahead and dive right in to some of these frequently asked questions. You guys are going to love this video today. And the first thing I wanted to touch on, and something that so many individuals will ask me simply because they haven't worked out in years, is what is the best routine if I'm very out of shape and I haven't done a lot of things in a long time? And the way I want to kind of look at this is first looking at what are some medical concerns you might be dealing with. Are you somebody who is very overweight? Are you somebody with heart disease? Have you just had knee surgery? All of these things are incredibly crucial to look at when you are very out of shape and starting out in your fitness journey after a very long time. And the reason this is simply because if you don't look at these things, you might end up doing exercises and doing routines that could end up hurting you. And that's the last thing we want to do if we are starting a fitness journey after a very long time, because we're trying to build some momentum, trying to get back into it. So that's the first thing I want you to consider. And from these kind of small metrics, you can look and see where your limitations might be. So once you've kind of assessed those limitations, and maybe you have knee surgery, so you're thinking, okay, maybe I can't do the craziest knee exercises right now, or I just had heart disease diagnosed, for example. Maybe I can't go too hard on a given cardio program. Once you have those things kind of laid out as a baseline, we can look at a few easy starting options. One of my favorite options for individuals who haven't worked out in years is walking. This could be either on a treadmill or outside. If you are somebody who doesn't have the best of balance issues, though, walking on a treadmill might be slightly challenging. So walking outside is a little bit better in that case. Sometimes you might be blessed and have a walking track in your hometown. I also recommend to go to a mall. That's a really good way to do it. Malls are still useful for things in this day and age, and that might actually be one of them. So walking is great. And walking is also great because it's very functional too. Not only can you get a good workout if you go quick, but it's also very, very functional, and it translates to things we do in our normal life very, very frequently. In addition to that, a recumbent bicycle is another great option if you are very out of shape. This is simply a bike where you are basically sitting down in a reclined position, so it doesn't really challenge your core muscles that much. It doesn't challenge your balance at all, and ultimately you're just getting a little bit of blood flow through your legs, getting some good work for your cardiovascular system, your heart, building up that overall heart health and heart strength. And recumbent bicycle is a great way to do that, and it's also very low impact too. So if you're somebody who's kind of overweight, maybe you have some extra weight on your joints, that's not going to aggravate it quite as much. Weight machines are another really good option if you are somebody who hasn't worked out in a long time. And weight machines are great because they basically force you to work out in a fixed plane of motion. Although this can be kind of a detriment because you're not working all the stabilizing muscles. Say if you're doing like a shoulder overhead press on a machine, you're not working on the stabilizers, which is a maybe bad thing long term. But if you haven't worked out in years and you're very out of shape, this can be a really easy way to get some muscle work done. Just get into the gym and to get started, build some momentum, because we're trying to do things that are easier for you, so then hopefully long term you're able to build some overall confidence for yourself and keep going back to the gym. These are also easy to load and progress too, so all you have to do to progress it is say, oh, I'm lifting 10 pounds on the machine, pull the pin out. Next week, I'm doing 20 pounds. Super easy to progress, super easy to monitor. You can write that down in your book. Weight machines are a great example, and you can kind of pair those together in a circuit style workout, so you can really get a good overall bang for your buck workout, because you're not going to be super limited on time. Bodyweight exercises are also a great way to kind of master overall positioning and strength if you are very out of shape and haven't worked out in years. If somebody hasn't done maybe any type of squatting, for example, for a really long time, I'm probably not going to have them load up a barbell and do barbell back squats on day one. Just doesn't really make sense, because I don't even know if they can move properly with a normal body weight squat. So that's what I would recommend, trying some body weight exercises. Maybe you can get it good at doing some push-ups on an elevated surface, kind of build some overall good positioning. Another great thing about body weight exercises too is that they don't require any money at all. So you can do these from home. And if you are somebody who is very out of shape and hasn't worked out in years, you might not want to spend a full-blown gym membership right away, simply because it's kind of overwhelming and intimidating when you go to the gym. So bodyweight exercise is a great way. And there's a lot of exercise demonstrations online on YouTube. I have quite a few on my channel. I also have a lot of routines on my channel. You can go check those out in my playlist. So another really good way to get in some fitness, get in some exercise that I always recommend is to try to do some sports. And I don't mean a full-blown, full hard contact pickup game of basketball. I'm saying something that's kind of non-competitive. So a light sport. This could be shooting hoops. Maybe you're throwing a frisbee around with some friends. Maybe just going out for a couple games of bowling. You know, these are very small forms of physical activity, and although they do seem small, when you're first starting out after a long time, these are still going to give you some stimulus, and they're going to improve your mood, get your heart rate up. Maybe you're actually getting some socialization from them too, and they're just a building point on hopefully someday maybe we can do a little bit more intense of a game. But when we're first starting out, we're not overthinking this. We're just getting in and doing something. Also too, you can get in some stretching and mobility work, super easy. You could do a 10-minute stretching routine. You could do it all sitting down. I also have some chair yoga videos on my channel. It's all seated and it's all just stretching and mobility. This won't technically get you in shape, quote unquote. It won't really increase your muscle mass, and it won't give you some good cardiovascular work, so it's not going to improve your heart health. But, as I mentioned, we're not overthinking this. We're just trying to do something. We're trying to do something small, and if you throw in 10 minutes of stretching, maybe at the end of your workout, guess what? That's more physical activity you're going to do. That's more time you're in the gym, and that's going to ultimately lead you towards hopefully building off of that long term. So a sample program, I kind of made a basic one out here. If I was working with somebody and maybe they said, okay, I have 1 hour to work out, what should I do? And I haven't worked out in years, you know, very generalized statement here. I don't know much about their background, but a good starting point would maybe be a 20-minute brisk walk just to get their heart rate up, get their blood flowing. Again, we talked about walking being very translatable because we do that a lot in our normal lives. After that, you could do a 20-minute weight circuit where they're doing a body weight squat, they're working on a rowing machine, so they're working their back muscles, and maybe they're doing some planks. So body weight plank holds in potentially like an incline position, so it's a little bit more of a regression. And you just cycle through those exercises 3 times through for 20 minutes straight. And the good thing about this type of exercise too, if you're doing this, is it gets your heart rate up, and it also works your muscles as well. So kind of 2-for-1 bang for your buck. You're going to work your heart health as well as getting some good muscular strength. After that, maybe we're going to cool down, do 10 minutes on the recumbent bike, get a little bit more cardio. Again, we're just kind of using some time in the gym to just stay there and do something productive. Finish with 10 minutes of stretching. Again, super easy peasy. We don't have to think about exact numbers of, oh, I need to hit this amount, oh, I need to hit that amount. Don't worry about it. When you are first starting out after a long period of time, just get in, progress slowly. Don't get caught up in your old successes of, I used to be able to do this a super long time ago and I can barely bench press the bar, or I used to be able to run miles no problem at all and now I can barely walk a mile. I'm currently going through this right now. I actually got kind of some GI issues, so I haven't had the best of energy, and I've really had to check my ego and kind of look back at where my fitness level is. And I used to be a lot more fit in some aspects, and that's okay. Life is ups and downs, and this is no different for yourself too. The last thing too, when it comes to the best workout routine for somebody who's very out of shape and hasn't worked out in years, is to remember that consistency beats intensity. So if you come in and you're doing a workout and it literally is the hardest workout ever, you feel like you beat to it and you're like, oh my gosh, that was a great workout, but you don't stick with that workout for a long period of time, guess how many benefits you're going to get from health and fitness long term? None. Because the people who get benefits are ones who stick with a program for a very, very long period of time. That's where you see the compounding results. You're not going to see it from just simply working out as hard as you can one simple time. That's not going to cut it. Go ahead and like the video if that gave you some value. Greatly appreciate it. So the next portion of this that we're going to dive into is looking at muscle and strength. So you might be curious, what age do you stop building muscle and strength? And this is going to be an interesting one. So I want to differentiate some stuff here. Peak strength is when you usually develop the most amount of strength, and when your body simply is able to demonstrate the most amount of strength is usually at 25 years old. So if you play your cards right, your resistance training up till basically you're 25, you can basically maximize the peak amount of strength and muscle built at that 25-year mark. Again, this is going to vary from individual to individual, but that's a good general ballpark recommendation. Usually for individuals, they will maintain this for the next 10 or so years. Again, genetics are going to play a huge role in this. If you're somebody who's genetically gifted, once you hit 25 and hit your peak strength and muscle mass, maybe you're going to be able to do 15 years after that. But for most individuals, 10 years is about where you will maintain this. And then it will slowly kind of taper off. And the distinction I want to make here is that you aren't necessarily going to lose all of it. You are constantly changing, and we'll talk about this in a second. So another question I want to pose is, how is muscle and strength built? Because this will kind of lead into our next section. So when we work out, we stress our body. And then once we recover, as in we sleep well, we get some good nutrition, we're hydrated, we will then be able to build up the muscle and we will adapt and become stronger. So that's what happens to build strength. But what happens when you stop stressing out the system? Well, of course, you detrain. So your body is constantly changing, no matter what your age is, whether you are somebody who is 10 years old, whether you are somebody who is 90 years old, there's this constant feedback system of anabolism, which is essentially the ability to build something. In this case, we're talking about strength and muscle. And there's also catabolism, which is the breakdown of, in this case, we're talking about strength and muscle. So if you are alive, your potential to build and lose muscle and strength is always there. Just know that when we're talking about building the most absolute amount of strength and muscle, 25 is at that point. But you could be somebody who has maybe never worked out in your entire life. And if that's the case and you start working out when you're 40, you might be the strongest you were at 40 years old, even though 25 is when you develop peak strength. Now, you're not going to be as strong as if you would have started lifting when you were 25, but you are stronger than you were when you were 25 because you didn't lift at all, if that makes sense. So it's kind of a different way of thinking about it. But just know that you can constantly adapt and also maintain your muscle. So when it comes to muscle and strength as you age, testosterone, this is something that gets thrown around a lot. Testosterone does not drop off until around the age of 60. And again, this is give or take depending on your genetics. Could happen a little sooner. If you have some issues with your health, it might happen a little bit sooner. It's really hard to tell. So once this happens, you might notice it's a little hard to recover, but also too, it sometimes becomes harder to gain muscle and strength as one ages because people are just inactive. They become a little bit more tired and they become a little less motivated in their daily life to actually push themselves. So a lot of the reason that people lose muscle and strength over the age, over their lifespan, I should say, isn't because of this testosterone relationship. It is somewhat. It's usually because people stop working out. They stop being active and they just don't do anything. And I've seen this time and time again with the individuals that I work with. It happens all the time. So just know if you're living and breathing, you can build strength, you can lose strength, and it's a never-ending cycle that happens literally your entire life. So if you learned something new from that, please go ahead and give this video a like. Greatly appreciate it. And the next portion of this I wanted to tackle is managing workouts with a manual labor job. So there's a lot of individuals out there who might not have a cushy job where they're working in an office all day. It's climate controlled. It's very comfortable, if you will. It's good, comfortable situation to work in. You're not very stressed physically. So on the complete opposite of that, there are some individuals who do want to work out. They do want to improve their health, but they're outside all day. They're doing manual labor. They're chipping rocks at like a rock quarry, or they're in construction. They're doing all these things. So how do we manage workouts for these people? I wanted to kind of start this out by just looking at this idea of total stress in general. Your body in itself can only handle a finite amount of total stress. Now, this stress input can come from workout stress. This stress input can come from the stress from your overall work, so your career. And it can also come from life stress. And of course, there's a lot of different other things too, but I think this is a good general kind of parameter to work around. So life stress, an example of that, just because that's a little less specific, could be financial issues, or your kid's sick and you got to take off work, which could also lead to a work stress. Maybe you're having a relationship issue at home. These are all forms of stress that can actually build upon each other, and they will affect greatly your recovery protocol. So you need to understand your current balance in these stresses. If you are somebody just in general who's working any type of job that's physically demanding or just mentally demanding and stressful, you need to kind of look at this. And then when you understand your balance of these stresses, knowing how much of one you have and how little you have, you can then ask yourself, how are you sleeping? If you're sleeping pretty good, you're probably going to feel recovered. If you're not feeling really recovered, it's probably because there's an imbalance in stresses between these different metrics. So if you are somebody who's working one of those manual labor jobs, for example, and you just always feel beat down and run down, it could be the fact that your workouts might be too hard and your overall life stress might be too large for the amount of work and stress you're handling from your manual labor or hard work job. That's a really big distinction. A lot of people don't kind of make that connection there. So a few simple guidelines and simple tips that I think can help you is to, one, just realize that recovery is everything. So if you're not sleeping good, if your nutrition's not good, those are going to be some of the most important things to kind of look at and dive into very, very hard. Also, another good tip is to plan your workouts around your energy. If you're working a manual labor job, chances are you're not going to be energetic all the time, and you might not even feel like doing much of any workouts at all. at basically any time of the day. So maybe a good tactic for you is working out before your overall workday starts. Another even better tactic is to try to plan workouts on your rest days, or days where you are simply not going to work. So if you work Monday through Friday, you might only be able to muster up working out on Saturday or Sunday, just because you know you'll be able to sleep in, you'll be a little more recovered, and that might be the only time that works for you right now in your normal daily life to balance your overall stresses. And the thing I want to kind of reiterate too is to not stress out, more stress, right? To not stress out over how much you can and can't do. You're trying to work in as much physical activity into your life as you can and you can stick to. So if you can't do the optimal 4-day-a-week workout, that's fine. Don't beat yourself up over it, because if you do try to fit that in, you're end up gonna burn yourself out, and you're essentially going to not stick to those workouts because you're going to have too much stress, and it's just not going to be fun for you 100%. Another good tactic is to pick complementary exercises. So what I mean by this is that there's some very active manual labor jobs where you are doing a lot of cardio, as in you are running around a lot of bit throughout your shift. Maybe this is like a waiter or a park ranger where you're on your feet a lot throughout the day, and you're probably getting your heart rate up very frequently, but you're not doing a lot of resistance training. In this case, you might do just weight training in your normal workouts because you're already doing a lot of cardio from your overall normal work, right? So you don't really need to do that. We're trying to complement. On the flip side, if you're somebody who's doing construction all day and you're swinging a hammer, or you're picking up large objects and such, and you're doing stuff like that all day, that's kind of like weight training. If you think about it, it's kind of like a form of resistance training. So in this case, you might lean towards doing some more cardiovascular activities because you're already kind of doing a lot of manual resistance training in your manual labor job. So kind of looking at it from that way. You might also consider doing more prehab exercises. So if you're somebody who does a lot of overhead work and you notice your shoulders always tired and hurting after work, you might do a bunch of rotator cuff exercises. Or if you're a barber who does a lot of trimming with their hands, right? You might do lots of wrist and finger exercises to help with carpal tunnel and reducing any pain in that regard. If you're somebody who's bending over a lot through your day, you might do some core strength and lower back work so it gets you more resilient for your normal overall hard manual labor job. So it's just kind of a different way of thinking about it. If you are somebody who's working out, you can go towards more of that prehab exercise setting where you're not maybe getting the hardest workout, but you're kind of bulletproofing your body for doing workouts in your manual labor job. Because your manual labor job, as we kind of described already, is kind of a workout in general. And you need to understand the cost of this. You may not be able to optimize your workout 100% because that manual labor job is taking a lot of your energy costs from this. And the last thing I want to touch on with this is to simply be okay backing off from workouts. If you're feeling run down, if you're feeling tired, and you feel like you can't do these workouts anymore, or just on a certain week you're feeling just extra run down, it's okay to back off. It's okay to do a little bit less. It's okay to pivot your workout. Because the last thing we want to do is injure yourself. And if you're always stressed out with all of these different workout stresses, life stresses, and of course your hard manual labor job work stress, that's going to increase the chances of injury greatly. So at the end of the day, just trying to find a balance between these stresses is crucial. Listen to your body. Listen to your body, because we all know our body is best. Or try to go ahead and give this video a like if that gave you some good value. Now, the next portion of this I wanted to touch on is kind of a gym frequently asked question. So if you are somebody who is trying to improve your overall pull-up strength, you have probably seen a lot of different ways to do this. Maybe there's some banded pull-ups. Maybe you're doing assisted pull-ups on the machine. Maybe you're just having somebody shadow you and kind of help you come up. Maybe you're doing jumping pull-ups. There's so many different variations out there. I wanted to look at specifically the difference between an assisted pull-up machine and banded pull-ups and talk about which one might be better for you. So for an assisted pull-up machine, some of the pros is that it is really easy to track. Since it actually uses like a weight pin or a pull pin weight, you can easily see that 1 week I'm only using, let's say, 10 extra pounds of resistance to help me in this, right? So maybe the week after that, I'm going to try to take a little bit of less extra resistance. Or maybe that was too hard, so I'm going to add extra resistance to help me with that assistance. It's very easily trackable, so week to week you can kind of see that, oh, 1 week I was using this, I'm going to try a little bit less, boom, easy to track and progress. Another reason I like the assisted pull-up machine is typically it has multiple different handles. So it might have a neutral grip handle, so your hands are like this. Sometimes it has kind of one that's tilted on its side a little bit, so it's kind of at a diagonal, which can also be a different stimulus for your back muscles and can be a little less aggressive on your shoulders. And a lot of times they do have a straight bar too. There's multiple different grip options, which I think is really, really crucial if you are trying to get the most out of your workouts, because it offers some variety. It can help with overuse injuries, and it can just make it a little bit fun. And one of the last pros I love about the assisted pull-up machine is that virtually anyone can do a pull-up on this machine. You can get this loaded to the point where literally I've had individuals who are very, very, very overweight get up and do a pull-up on this machine simply because the way it works is that it actually adds weight to the, basically there's a counterbalance. So the more weight you add into it, the easier your pull-up is. So you can get it to a point where you have so much weight on that, it's almost like you're doing feather pull-ups, like you're literally just flying in the air, which can be dangerous. But if you are somebody who has very low strength or is just very, very overweight, basically anyone can do a pull-up on the machine. There are some cons to this machine though that I do want to mention. Not everyone has access to this machine, and in fact, not a lot of gyms will have this in general. If you're lucky enough and you live in a gym that has maybe a YMCA or Planet Fitness or has a lot of equipment, chances are, yeah, you'll have this. But if you're in a smaller gym, this is not a very common piece of equipment, unfortunately. So that's kind of one of the things to think about here. You might not always have access to this. If you do have access to this though, try it out for yourself. Because when you notice, you start doing it, you'll also probably notice it's kind of an unnatural movement since your body can't move forward and backward because your legs are usually on a plate to make this an assisted pull-up. You can't really kind of move freely, so you're kind of on a fixed plane. It's a little awkward on your shoulders. It's a little awkward on your back. Some people might not really care for this too much. I just don't really like it, but some people might like it. Some people might like that it's kind of a fixed plane and that it forces you to stay in a straight line when you're going up and down in the pull-up. I particularly don't like it, but those are some pros and cons. On the flip side, the banded pull-up, this is essentially where you're going to put a band around your leg or your foot, tie it up around a pull-up bar, pull it down, and then essentially that band is going to be pulling you up for some assistance to get your pull-ups. So banded pull-ups are great exercise. Some of the reasons they're great exercises is because you can literally do this on any pull-up bar. So I actually used to have in my home gym downstairs, I still have this. It's a door frame pull-up bar. And I used to do these types of pull-ups with my little brother on that door frame pull-up bar. So literally a door frame. I attached this resistance band, I pulled it down, and he could do some pull-ups there. You can do it on a tree. You could do it on a pull-up bar at a park. You could do it at a park that doesn't have defined pull-up bars, but basically anywhere you can do this. And because of that, it's extremely easy to set up. As I said, you literally just attach the band on the top of the bar, pull it down, you're good to go. And of course, those bands will transport anywhere. So if you're trying to get a workout on the go, maybe you're gonna be out of town, but you know there's a park and you can get some good pull-ups in, boom, bring your bands. They transport almost anywhere. So a really good way that essentially you can set up a pull-up regression virtually anywhere that's got any type of bar or just stable object that's pulling off. I keep thinking of a tree, for example. I used to do pull-ups on a tree when I was younger because that's all I had access to. I couldn't do them though. I sucked at them, so I tried to do pull-ups. Some of the cons, of course, to the banded pull-up machine. You can snap yourself. So if you have that resistance band on your leg or on your foot, it can actually snap up into your body and can hit your junk. That's happened to me before. I've hit my my privates, so not a fun experience there. It hurts. It can also snap other parts of your body too, but that's kind of the first one that I think of. Over time, the band does lose stretchiness as well, so it's going to basically require you to replace the bands over time. And this has happened to me too, where I've used a band for a long period of time, and after that long period of time, the band actually snapped. It literally broke. So sometimes it can break, which is of course very dangerous if you're trying to do some of these assisted pull-ups with a band. The good thing about this though is the fact that most of the time when you are doing banded pull-ups, it's with a band that's very, very thick. So you would likely see before it would actually break because the band is so thick. So usually on the bands where it does break, they're very, very thin and they don't take that much. They're just very thin, so they're kind of hard to tell when it's fraying. Those thicker bands you can see very, very easily if they're fraying, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. Of course, they're always awkward to have on, and they're also awkward to get into. So having the band on your knee and having it just resting maybe on your knee or your leg is very, very kind of annoying when you're trying to do pull-ups. Also, if you have it off-centered on your leg, it might pull you towards one side of the bar a little bit more, so it can kind of become an uneven pull-up. So try your best to pull as evenly as you can up on the bar if you are doing banded pull-ups. And if you are somebody who is very overweight, it also might be a little challenging to get into this position with the banded pull-up just because, again, it's very, very awkward. So if that gave you a little bit of guidance on the difference between those two, which is better, go ahead and give this video a like. Greatly appreciate it. And of course, another huge aspect of fitness that people always want to know is what are some of the best ways to lose fat? And when you're first starting out, you might want to start walking for fat loss, but then you might think, does walking in place help to lose fat as well? Well, let's look at this. And the way I want to look at this is by comparing walking versus walking in place, because they're very, very similar in their overall calorie burn. So we're going to use a 165 pound person, for example. And if you break this down into kilograms, and we need to do that, it's 75 kilograms. You can look this up online for your own body weight. Just type in body weight in kilograms or take your body weight in pounds divided by 2.2. Once you do that, we also want to look at this idea of a MET. One MET is simply 1 calorie burned per kilogram per hour. A MET is inherently just a standardized measure of how much energy an activity takes to do. So just know, generally speaking, the higher the METs, the more metabolically demanding or the harder the activity is overall. So we're going to be using it as a way to kind of measure the difference between walking intensity and walking in place intensity. So walking uses about 2.5 to 3 METs. Again, this depends on how quickly you're walking. Of course, if you are going up on an incline, there's a lot of different things that are going to be variations here. But just know walking is a 2.5 to 3 MET. That means that when you are walking, you're going to burn about 2.5 to 3 calories every single hour for every kilogram of body weight. So as we just discussed, we're using the 75 kilogram individual. This means that this individual would burn roughly 187 calories to 225 calories every single hour if they were walking with that 2.5 to 3 MET category. So that's something to start. Walking burns that many calories, and that's actually a lot of calories for just kind of a normal walk, right? Let's look at walking in place though. Walking in place, and the metric I used for this was kind of just a light strolling walk, so you're not really focusing on having a good consistent pace. It's just a light casual walk. This is going to be about 2 METs. So again, remember, METs is just kind of a generalized workload. It's a generalized workload idea of how much energy you're spending for a specific activity. So walking had 2.5 to 3 METs. Walking in place is 2 METs. So that means that when we are walking in place, we are burning 2 calories every hour for every kilogram of body weight. So if we break this down to that 75 kilogram individual or the 165 pound person, we are burning 150 calories an hour, roughly speaking. So as we can see here, walking in place 100% can burn calories. And if you are in a calorie deficit over time, you will lose weight. Just know you're not going to be burning as many calories as if you were walking out and about, because when you are walking and you are actually moving forward in space, you are expending more energy, because not only do you have to move your legs up, you're also pushing out with your legs, and you also have to work against wind resistance as well. So there's a few reasons why walking in place won't burn as many calories, and those are essentially why. But of course, if you are somebody who's walking in place just to get some extra steps in, this greatly increases your steps very, very rapidly. And if you are trying to lose weight, getting more steps in every single day is one of the easiest and quickest hacks that you can do. So if you are literally eating dinner, for example, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna march in place for 5 minutes, kind of shift back and forth, burn some extra calories, get some more steps in, that will 100% make a huge impact over time. Do not underestimate this. I do this every single day. I usually eat my meals standing, or I walk very, very slowly on a treadmill when I'm doing these, eating certain meals, just to get extra steps in, because at the end of the day, that consistency over time is what builds to that long-term weight loss and long-term success. So some really good ideas there. Go ahead and give this video a like if it is providing you some value. Let's go ahead and dive in to another topic, and this is more of a nutrition topic. But a lot of individuals are confused on just full fat versus no fat, whether it's dairy. Usually dairy is the first one that comes to mind, but let's look at Greek yogurt, and this will give you kind of a good metric. So which Greek yogurt is best for overall health? Full fat versus no fat. Now, the first thing I want to kind of ask you, just generally speaking, is what is your goal? And this is going to help us define which one might be better for you. Are you trying to lose some weight? Are you trying to gain some weight? Are you trying to perform at the highest capability? Are you like a high-level athlete, or trying to become a high-level recreational athlete? Or are you somebody who just wants to be a little bit healthier? Knowing this will really be able to guide you towards if you should be eating stuff that has full fat, or potentially reduced fat or low fat, no fat, right? So the case for no fat and eating no fat Greek yogurt in this example is that it of course has less calories than full fat. So if you are somebody who is trying to monitor your overall weight, as in either maintain your weight or lose weight, you would probably be better off sticking to no fat Greek yogurt. And this is simply because there's less calories, and if you're consuming less calories per day than you need to maintain your weight, you're going to, of course, either maintain or lose some weight. That's kind of the idea. There is some issues though with no fat Greek yogurt. Since there is no actual fat content, you might get a little bit hungrier a little bit quicker when you are eating no fat Greek yogurt. And this is simply because the more macronutrients are in a specific food, the longer it takes to digest and go through your GI system. So essentially, if it's just protein and carbs, which is what would be in no fat Greek yogurt, that's going to go through your body much quicker, as in if there was a little bit of fat, a little bit of carbs, and a little bit of protein. All those together take longer to digest. So you might get a little bit hungrier quicker. I don't know this for myself personally, but it is something to consider. Another common complaint is that it costs a little bit more. Taking some of the fat out of the Greek yogurt adds a little bit of processing to it, extra processing. So because of this, the more processed it is, the more it will cost, of course. It doesn't taste as good. I'm sure you've had some broccoli without any butter, right? And butter is essentially fat. And that doesn't taste nearly as good as broccoli with butter, which is, of course, fat again. So this is the same concept with Greek yogurt. That fat gives it a little bit more richness, makes it a little bit more creamy, and makes it taste a little better. So with this said, no-fat Greek yogurt is still pretty dang good. You won't find a huge difference, but there is a tiny smidgen of a difference, especially if you're somebody who used to only eat full-fat Greek yogurt and you are now trying no-fat Greek yogurt. You're probably going to notice a little bit of change, but just give it time. Your taste buds will change pretty quickly on that. The last thing is it's not really as accessible. So what I mean by this is that when you are out and about at a gas station, for example, you're out of town, or maybe you are eating breakfast at a hotel because you're on vacation, the chances of there being no-fat Greek yogurt is very slim versus the chances of there being full-fat Greek yogurt is very high. So not as many people are on board to having that no-fat Greek yogurt just because, again, it doesn't really taste as good. It is a little bit more expensive. So when you're out and about, it might not be easily accessible for you compared to that full-fat. So just another thing to consider. But on the flip side, full-fat Greek yogurt has more calories. So if you're somebody who is trying to gain some weight, maybe you're trying to recover a little bit better from your workouts, maybe you're just underweight and you're skinny and you're trying to get up to a healthy weight, this could be a great option to get some extra calories in, to get you some extra protein, of course, on top of that. And of course, hopefully you're building some muscle too. So that's all going to help you get to that healthy weight. But the full fat has more calories, and just on the exact opposite of the no fat, more calories means more chances of gaining weight. The issue with full fat, though, and if you're considering health as one of your reasons for eating basically Greek yogurt, period, saturated fat is prevalent in about half of the fat calories in Greek yogurt. And saturated fat increases LDL in the body. And when LDL levels are high, it's your LDL cholesterol, the chances of heart disease increases greatly, and lots of other comorbidities involved with heart disease. So I believe it's the American Heart Association recommends about 5% or less of your daily calories come from saturated fat, and that's not a lot of fat at all. And this is saturated fat. This is a saturated fat. This is found usually typically in animal products. So this might be a case where if you're eating full fat, but you still want to get some fat in, you could try to lean towards maybe a lower fat example. Again, it's all going to kind of play on what your current goals are. I think weight gain and weight loss is probably the easiest one to look at. If you're trying to gain some weight, I would maybe add in some full fat or lower fat. And of course, if you're trying to lose some weight, no fat is probably the way to go for you. So let's talk about weight gain. And I don't talk a lot about weight gain on this channel because a lot more individuals struggle with weight loss and maintaining their current weight. But if you're somebody who is skinny, how quickly should you gain weight? So the first question I want to ask you is, do you even need to gain weight to begin with? So how you're going to do this is by finding your BMI. Now your BMI is essentially a ratio of how much you weigh to how tall you are. So when you go online, you can literally just type in BMI calculator. It will put in your height, it will put in your weight. And essentially, if you're between 18.5 and 24.9, you're considered healthy from a BMI standard. Now, if you're below an 18.5 BMI, that means you are underweight. Of course, if you're over 24.9, that means you're overweight, but we're talking about if you are too skinny in this position. So find out if you are at a healthy weight. If you are at a healthy weight, you don't really need to worry about this at all. But if you are somebody who is underweight, there are some dangers, and these are one I want to highlight before we look at some ways to gain weight smartly. Some of the dangers of being too skinny, of course, are extremely low energy, and this is usually because of two things. One, your hormonal regulation isn't going to be quite up to snuff. Your body's not able to produce hormones at an optimal level because you're not getting enough calories. And also because you're not getting enough calories, you're not going to have a lot of energy to do your activities of daily living, and of course your workouts if you're trying to do that as well. Decreased lean body mass is incredibly common if you are too skinny. I work with a lot of seniors and older adults who are very, very frail, and they are basically skin and bones, and because of this they have very low bone mineral density, they have low muscle mass, and both of those things are highly correlated with increased risk of dying early. So those are a huge health concern. So if you are in this underweight category, some ways to gain weight smartly is to see how far you are from that healthy body weight. If you're only like 5 pounds from actually being in that healthy category, you really don't need to push too hard at gaining weight. So for most individuals, I recommend trying to gain about 1% of their body weight every single week. So if you're somebody who weighs 130 pounds and you need to get up to 135 pounds, for example, to be in that healthy weight category range, when you're first starting out, only going to need to gain about 1.3 pounds per week. And then that's going to change, of course, week to week. But 1% of your body weight, that's going to be a healthy weight. This does two things. One, it limits your fat gain. Of course, we want to try to gain lean body mass. So when you're gaining weight, you are going to gain a little bit of fat. But if you're resistance training as well, which is what I would highly recommend, you're also going to be gaining some muscle and bone mass as well, which is incredibly important as we just discussed for longevity and overall health. So gaining 1% every single week is really crucial. Some tips to get in more calories if you feel like you just can't eat anything. Super easy one. Double down on the foods you enjoy. If you really like to eat popcorn and, let me think of something, for example, popcorn and apples. I don't know why, that's the first thing that comes to my mind. Double down on those foods. The more you like those foods, the more you can eat them, and just double down on them. Triple down if that's all you really like. Also too, get in some high quality liquid calories. So this isn't something like drinking soda. This is more towards maybe making some smoothies for yourself. That's going to be a liquid calorie. You can try some protein shakes as well. That's also going to give you some good nutrients on top of getting some good protein in, which can help to build that muscle and strength. Of course, another great option too, if you're skinny and you're trying to get extra calories in, is to cook in healthy oils and lean on fats. So these are kind of the same thing. So if you're making chicken breast and some veggies, for example, toss on some canola oil or olive oil on the plate. That's going to add in some extra fat calories, which if you are eating in a small deficit and only gaining about 1% of your body weight every week, that's going to be great. That's going to be great. That's kind of the whole point of this. Another great source of fats is nuts. So whether this is whole nuts like almonds, cashews, peanut butter is also a very easy way to get in a bunch of calories very rapidly and very quickly. But you do have to be careful with these. You don't want to eat too many of them. So use them sparingly when you start. Track your weight for a couple weeks, and if you're gaining weight at that 1% of body weight every single week, then that's great. Just stick with it. If you're gaining weight a little too fast, maybe cut back on some of those extra fats. And then one of the last hacks is to eat more frequently. I know myself personally, if I eat fewer, bigger meals throughout the day, I feel way more full, versus if I snack throughout the day, I'm almost constantly hungry. And there's some individuals who are complete opposite, but if you struggle to get in a bunch of food, I would just highly recommend trying to eat more frequently throughout the day. This may be during times where you're not even particularly hungry, but just trying to get in a small snack if you are trying to get your body weight up is an incredibly easy way to do this. Go ahead and give this video a like so far if you are getting some good, useful ideas and tips and tricks. So the last portion I wanted to talk about today is fatigue after workouts. So should you really be sleepy after workouts? This is a question I found online the other day I wanted to address. So the first thing I want to ask you is a question. And what are you working out for? Are you trying to be healthier? Are you trying to optimize performance? This is going to, at least in my eyes, decide if you really should be sleepy after your workouts. So if you are working out for health, which is I'm just getting in, I want to get some blood flow, I want to build a little bit of muscle, maybe lose a little bit of weight, I'm not going too hard. You might be slightly tired after your workout, but for the most part, you should feel pretty darn energized. You shouldn't be too tired because ultimately, if you're working out for health, you shouldn't be really working out too hard in general. Now, with that said, I do want people to push themselves in the gym, but not every workout in the gym should be a push. Not every workout should feel like you are doing the hardest reps and sets for yourself. Most of your workouts, especially if you're working for health, should be well below your maximal recoverable volume and intensity. Most of your workout should be, a good rule of thumb, is about a 6 to 7, maybe even less. We'd say 5 to 7 out of 10 on a scale. So let's say you're doing some weights, you lift a set of weights, and you're like, okay, that was about a 6 out of 10. That's great. And if you think about it, if most of your sets are a 6 out of 10, you probably shouldn't be too tired after your workout. If most of your sets are an 8 to 9 out of 10, you're probably going to be tired after your workout, which in the case of performance is probably maybe what you're looking more towards. So the thing about it though is even if you are trying to get the most out of performance in the gym, you might be sleepy after those intense workouts, but you shouldn't be doing even these workouts all the time. This should still only cover a very small portion of your overall workouts. Most of your workouts, even if you are performing at a high level, should also still be kind of in that 7 to 6 rep range, or 7 to 6 RPE range or difficulty range. And this is simply because this is where you recover from. The difference between the RPE for somebody who's performing for health reasons and actually like performance and optimizing those things is that somebody's RPE or perceived rate of exhaustion might be a little bit lower if you are doing it for health, because a lot of individuals who are just lifting for health don't really know how to push themselves too hard, and that's totally okay. Certain workouts just in general might also make you more tired. So high intensity workouts we just discussed. If you are working out after a fasted workout, so maybe you go into the gym early, you don't eat before that, you might generally be speaking, be more tired. And this could be actually because you're tired, but it could also just because you're hungry too. Your blood sugar might be a little low. High heat workouts can make you really dehydrated, which of course can make you more sleepy and tired after that. Longer workouts of 2 or plus hours that combine cardio and weights, a lot of overall volume and intensity together, you're probably going to be a little bit more tired after that workout. And then also the time of day. I know for myself that if I work out very late in the day or very early in the day, this is kind of right around those times I'm about to go to bed or about to wake up from just going to bed, right? And I might be a little more sleepy around those times as well. But at the end of the day, just remind yourself, if you are always consistently tired during your workouts, you might be doing too much volume, and you are likely under-recovering as well. So your sleep probably isn't on point as much as it should be. Your overall food intake probably isn't on point as much as it should be. And of course, your stress, you're not managing your overall stresses very well. So maybe if you are high stress at work at this time, and you're also having some issues with your relationships, maybe with your kids or your spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend, for example, guess what? That's going to translate directly into your workouts to the point where you might be tired after your workouts because you're tired, just generally speaking, overall. So managing all those things is incredibly crucial. It's okay sometimes to be sleepy after workout. It's okay to take a little bit of a nap too if you're trying to recover and get back up to par. That's totally okay. Just remember, long term, you want to be filled with energy after your workouts and not necessarily too tired all the time. So go ahead and give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. We help individuals of all abilities improve their overall health and knowledge of the gym, regardless of where they are at in life. I am also going to link another video in the pinned comment you can check out, giving you a few great tips on working out when you are extra busy. I'm going to link, that was actually a podcast we filmed recently, and I think you would enjoy it as well. So go ahead and check that out down in the description. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.